Good morning, everybody. Today I'm here to give you my review of the Chill of Ravenloft expansion, which released pretty recently. Now, I've played through this expansion several times at this point, and I also wanted to give it some time to kind of settle it a little bit before I made my review, because oftentimes, sometimes the expansions release with bugs or problems that need a minute to get fixed. It's very common in DDO. So it would be something where I could review the expansion and throw that into my review, but the problem is that would affect every expansion that's ever been released in this entire video game. So I just wanted to give it a couple weeks, let the expansion fully settle, and then kind of give my review. So to start off with, let's start with the good, the pros of this expansion. I'm going to say number one has to be the atmosphere. This place oozes atmosphere, everything about it. I love the just general style that they decided to choose for the actual building and building design. I like the way that a lot of the quests are just tend to be really creepy and unsettling. I love the way that they incorporated the servitors and how they don't quite feel like zombies and how they don't quite feel like constructs. The music is absolutely phenomenal. Just overall, the atmosphere really sucks you in, and I find that sometimes when it comes to the different expansions, you don't always feel that right away. An easy example for me is like Vecna. The Vecna expansion just doesn't really have the same level of atmosphere, where yes, you are dealing with certain situations and the final quest is pretty cool, but I would say that overall it kind of just feels like you're going on a DDO quest within Sharn, and it doesn't really separate itself too much. Whereas the Chill of Ravenloft doesn't feel like the Mists of Ravenloft at all, and feels like a completely different expansion, both in terms of just the scope, the design, everything about it. The atmosphere is really good. Which then brings me on to the Adventure Zone, which is another W for this expansion. I am not a big Adventure Zone guy. I have never found myself like really enjoying Adventure Zones for the most part. They're usually just a way for you to get from point A to point B. And so overall, I would say that I kind of rate Adventure Zones pretty harshly, because if they're not immediately fun, I kind of tend to not like them that much. And with Myth Draenor, that is actually probably my least favorite part of the entire expansion. In fact, I would say that the Myth Draenor Adventure Zone is so catastrophically bad and improperly used that it drags the entire expansion down to the bottom of the list for me. Chill of Ravenloft, being set in Lemuria, allows this to take place in like a small city, meaning that there are streets, there's like a grid you can kind of follow to get around. It's very easy to navigate. There are lots of secrets everywhere. It's fun to kind of find the rares and the different things. And I really like the fact that you can climb on top of the buildings. It does not take long to get anywhere inside the expansion. So as long as you've got a mount, you can just quickly go from point A to point B very quick. And I just like the overall design and layout. So for me, the Adventure Zone does do very well. It kind of hits the marks that I want it to. It's not too big, but it has interesting stuff in it. And I appreciate that instead of just making things be in the middle of nowhere, they just go, yeah, here's a building you click on, and then it brings you into an area inside, as opposed to saying, oh, there's an area that's interesting, go walk 300,000 kilometers the other way until you find it. Next up is the quest design. Now, the quest design in Chill of Ravenloft is also extremely good. I like the quest design and the story. I like the general flow in terms of how it goes. I'm not going to spoil the story for anybody that is still interested in playing it and hasn't had the chance yet, but I really like some of the twists and turns that we do get. Obviously, it is not the most secretive in terms of the expansions, in terms of how they've laid out some of the information, where you do end up bulldozing your way through a lot of buildings, so you find out things you probably aren't supposed to find out, but some of the action set pieces feel really good. And there are a few quests that are actually some of my favorite quests that they have released in a long time. In fact, some of the adventures that we got were just so unique and different in terms of how they just feel generally, that I actually kind of forgot I was playing Dungeons & Dragons Online, and I thought I was playing some type of single-player adventure game. Like, that's just how I got pulled into the adventures. I'm specifically talking about Locked Away Part 1 and 2. They just really hit on a different level, and I had an amazing time running through them. So overall, the quest design is extremely good, and if they keep this up, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the quest design has been pretty good recently, but yeah, Lemuria is just like on another level. It's really well done. There are some quests that people don't like. One notable one is the Wish, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but it does have some slow points as there's quite a lot of cutscenes, and I think that is something that a lot of people are a bit upset about with some of the adventures, is that there are some adventures that happen to have quite a few cutscenes where you're kind of waiting for something to happen and waiting for something to play out, and that is a complaint that many do have, and I think I will probably get fatigued by that as it goes on. So maybe if there were some areas, again, we're going to talk about the Wish in a little bit, that had a way to kind of move those a little bit faster. Something like that would be nice, but I do appreciate what the cutscenes are bringing to the story and how they affect the game. So on a first playthrough, they're fantastic and I didn't mind at all, but yeah, on repeat playthroughs, sometimes they can get a little bit tiresome, but overall the quest design is very, very good. Next up is the monsters. I know this sounds like a weird category to have for an expansion, but every expansion does in fact come with new monsters. And my favorite expansion of all time is the Isle of Dread, which gave us tons and tons of dinosaurs. So honestly, it's really hard to compare anything to Isle of Dread, but I think that Lamortia does succeed very heavily in this regard. Whether it is the cold lights, the new spooky like super rates that spawn in, you've got the Gricks, which are just awful. I just hate them. I hate looking at them. Everything about them is vile. And the servitors, I really, really like the servitors. I think that the design of them is good. I think that the noises they make are good. I actually think that they are kind of like the stars of the expansion, where you kind of see them kind of shambling around, and they really just, they hit that uncanny valley where they're not quite working like zombies, and they definitely feel like there's some type of weird Frankenstein monster, which obviously there's a lot of art and other things to go by, but it's just, I'm happy that they managed to hit the mark and make it actually feel like that within the game. Plus, there are the hurler servitors that throw things at you, and sometimes they can throw tombstones at you, which is just silly and dumb. There's no reason for them to throw tombstones, but I love it. It's just so cartoony, and it makes me giggle every single time I see it. So I'm a big fan of the servitor design. And last up on the good category, we have the loot, because from my personal opinion, I think the loot in the Chill of Ravenloft is extremely, extremely good. And if you are somebody who doesn't own any expansion and you want to get a good set of endgame loot, the Chill of Ravenloft has some of the most flexible loot crafting we've ever gotten. Now, some people might not like the element of the crafting here because there is a lot of different crafting, but for me personally, I think that being able to customize your ingredients is really, really nice. Being able to customize the actual stats that you want is, again, really, really nice. And bringing forward the Sun and Moon augment system, so we still have not gone back to item sets, which is a huge win. I think that item sets were good for a time, but we've grown past them. I think in terms of just general design, I think that these Sun and Moon augments just make the game feel a lot better, a lot more fluid, and allow you to customize some of the stats. So as we get more augments and more ways to customize, I think it'll feel even better. But for now, just the fact that there's so many different ways you can customize your characters now, I think the new loot definitely is a big win here. They did bring back the rare loot system, but the rare loot nowadays is not so much strictly better. There is one exception, which I think is the Heart Shard, which is a very powerful health item. But in general, the new loot that is in the game and the rare loot, it's kind of just another way you can customize your character. So you can definitely build without using that special loot, and then if you happen to get it, maybe make an adjustment. But it's not something like with Mitranor, where there were the best items in the game that were locked behind the rare loot. Instead, it's this way, it's just an optional piece that if you happen to get it, you can go, oh, cool, and do something slightly different, which I think is a good way to do the rare loot. It makes you feel good when you get it, but it doesn't make you feel bad when you don't. Now, I've talked about the good. Let's talk about the bad of the Chill of Ravenloft, and there are two major things that come to mind. Number one is the loot. Yeah, I know I just started talking up the loot pretty heavily, but the amount of grinding that you have to do to actually use any of the gear is a bit off-putting for many people. If you find a piece of gear in the Chill of Ravenloft, it is not immediately usable, and you have to go out and craft it, which kind of makes it so that if you do not do anything before the Chill of Ravenloft, you're going to get a bunch of items that are effectively useless until you farm out all of the required materials. Now, the Isle of Dread also had a crafting system, and honestly, I have a lot of praise for that crafting system, and the Chill of Ravenloft has pretty much exactly the same system, but with even more options and even more customization to it, as there are different crafts you can do on top of everything you could do in Isle of Dread. So you'd think this would be just better, except every item now has a minimum of 2 crafts on it, whereas Isle of Dread only had 1, so while you can customize your items further, it also takes twice as many materials. So think of how long it took you to craft out that full Isle of Dread set. Well, now it's going to take you twice as long to craft out your full Chill of Ravenloft set. This can be a bit of an issue, especially if you want to get into the end game sooner, because if you only own Chill of Ravenloft, you're going to be spending a lot, and I mean a lot, of time farming. On top of that, the way you remove the augments and move them around, which is actually a way you could possibly save on having to craft so much, is the Victranium picks. And as far as I can tell, you can only really get 1 pick from completing the whole saga, which just feels kind of bad. I think if they're going to go more open into this system, where you have tons and tons of different crafted augments, I feel like the picks should be easier to acquire for the general player base. You can also buy them in the DDO store, but yeah, I feel like because we have so many different augments to craft and it takes that much longer, about twice as long as what you would expect for Isle of Dread, I will say it can be definitely a bit of a hassle. Now, I do still think the system is good even with that in mind, and if you are somebody who doesn't mind putting in the time, you can still farm it out. Additionally, something that is kind of a con but also kind of a pro, which is that once you finish farming and you have your gear set and you're feeling good, if you want, you can just sell your materials to other players, either on the auction house or Astral Shard auction house, and people will pay big bucks for them because everybody needs a gazillion. So there is like an economy play there, and you could argue that's a way for like really high endgame players to be able to pawn off all their extra materials for Astral Shards to fuel whatever they want to do. So again, there's an argument there to be had that it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I do think that is kind of one of the negatives, is that there is a lot of crafting to do. Even in the heroic side, all the heroic augments take a lot less to be able to craft, so it's much easier to craft the heroic stuff, which is good, but you still run into the same problem of needing to craft so many different things onto each of the augments. So while you can make a near perfect gear set that has pretty much every single stat you could ever want and use it on every character, it's going to take you a long time to actually do that. Alrighty, and now we are going to talk about it, the big elephant in the room, the big issue with the expansion, and that is the experience points. Now, some people probably saw this coming because it is a huge problem in my opinion, and it has been a problem for a long time, but I think Chill of Ravenloft is the kind of the poster child for this issue, which is that the XP in the Chill of Ravenloft straight up sucks. Like, it's garbage. Like, it's not just bad, it's like awful. There's really no way to go about it. The level 8 quests have some of the best experience points in the entire game. You've got stuff like Temple of Elemental Evil, Spies in the House, Stromwald's Mine, these quests that are quick that also give a very large amount of experience points. And the Chill of Ravenloft, not only does it not match up to any of those quests in terms of the amount of experience points that you get, but it also gives only 6 more total experience than the Isle of Dread. That's right, an expansion that is 1 level lower, the Isle of Dread, actually gives the same amount of XP as the Chill of Ravenloft, which is a higher level expansion. And not only is the Chill of Ravenloft higher level, it's also longer. Like, some of the quests just take extra time. And this is where we start to get into stuff like the specifics, like the Wish. The Wish is a really cool quest. It's got a great story. The fact that you're kind of plunged into the darkness most of the time is really interesting as a general mechanic. And I actually think the Wish quest is one of the better designed quests. There is some waiting you have to do for some of the cutscenes that I don't like, but the actual action elements of the quest are really interesting. The secret finding is interesting. I really like the Wish, but the Wish is the longest quest in the Chill of Ravenloft by no small margin, because you physically have to wait. There are several minutes of you just standing around waiting, and there's no way to get around that. And for whatever reason that I can understand, the Wish, the longest quest in the Chill of Ravenloft, gives the least amount of experience in the entire quest chain, which again is just completely baffling. Now, this is obviously a fixable problem. Like, SSG can just like up the experience on the quest. Like, I have no idea why Chill of Ravenloft is so bad. And this is also not exclusively to heroics either. It's also pretty bad in epics. In fact, the Isle of Dread actually gives more experience points in legendary, which is just, again, one of those things I find just completely confusing. But yeah, the XP is just really, really bad. There's no other way to say it. I kind of wish that they will go back, or not wish, I hope they go back and fix it and they update it, because as of right now, there's no real reason to run the expansion in heroics, like, other than the fact that, like, it's kind of cool, I guess. But this is like kind of a problem that has been emblematic of Strimtom games for a long time with their expansion releases. They're really cagey on adding experience to things, and I have to assume it's because it's going to impact their sale of experience point potions, and so that's why they're adding less and less XP to newer and newer content. But it has just been a sliding trend. Like, a lot of people will make comparisons to Giant Hold and be like, oh, well, Giant Hold gives this amount of XP for this type of difficult monster, and other quests should follow suit. And I don't think that's entirely true. I do think Giant Hold is a relic of the past, where the monsters are probably a little bit too weak for the amount of experience points that we get. But that being said, it feels good to run Giant Hold because you do get a good amount of XP. It feels good to run some parts of Ravenloft. It feels good, for the most part, to run the Feywild because you get a lot of experience points. Like, the reason why people run Three Barrel Cove is not just because the pirates feel good, it's also because the XP is quite good. So you feel good while running the quests. And a lot of people hate Prove Your Worth. It's a quest that many people hate, but by pushing through the challenge, you can get to the other side and get a lot of XP. And it feels weird to hang so much of the expansion's value on the experience points, but like when you really think about it, when we're playing content, most of the time it's going to be people in heroics leveling up. And right now, if you're like, oh, I want to buy this expansion so it can add it to my leveling repertoire and do it, you're not going to. You're going to skip Ravenloft every time. I'm not going to run Chill of Ravenloft in heroics. It's literally a waste of time. I'm just going to go run the few parts of Temple of Elemental Evil that I like to run, maybe even running the whole thing. Running some Stromwald's Mine, running some Stormcleave Outpost, still hitting up Vaughn 1 and 2, because those quests actually do reward you for the amount of time that you put into them, whereas it just, for whatever reason, Chill of Ravenloft does not. So if they come out and they can go across and hit the Chill of Ravenloft with like a 20% XP bump, you know, maybe like we double the XP values on the Wish and we kind of bump the XP a little bit across the board, then I can say it's going to feel good. But like if you're level 10 and you've reincarnated, so you're on the Legend XP track and you actually run the Chill of Ravenloft, you don't even get a level. It's like pretty bad. The fact that you can run all of the quests and not even get a single level. So right now for me, it is a major issue. So yeah, that is kind of a problem. I just don't understand it. The Saltmarsh XP is low. The Chill of Ravenloft XP is low. Oddly enough, the area where they actually did a good job with this is Myth Janor, where the XP actually doesn't feel that bad, but then you have to deal with the adventure zone, so then getting to areas just feels really bad, but the XP is actually pretty fine. But yeah, it's just an issue, and I think that this is a solvable problem, so hopefully they can solve it. But yeah, it is a major issue, and everybody can see it. It's like immediately apparent, like the second you play through it. And in fact, the XP values are so static between quests that have very, very different lengths. Like some of the quests, it like just doesn't even make sense. It's as if they just slapped a number in there, and then that was like the default or whatever, and then they just didn't look at it ever again. As several different quests have huge length differences and give the exact same amount of XP. Even something like the Wish, again, which is the longest quest and gives the least amount of XP, I just don't understand it. It is very confusing. So hopefully they will adjust it and change it. So overall, what is my final rating of the Chill of Ravenloft expansion? I am going to give this a rating of B+. It is a B+ rating because it has so many good things going for it. The atmosphere, the adventure zone, the quest design, the new monsters, the loot. These are all things I really, really like, and I think they did an excellent job with all of them. But the experience points, making it so you actually don't want to run the expansion unless you're farming for items at the end game, is such a downer. The artists, the quest designers, the animation artists put so much time, the music guy put so much time to make this expansion feel really, really good, and then because the XP is bad, people aren't going to run it, and it's just kind of disappointing. So hopefully SSG will do a patch and will update the experience points in the adventure. Otherwise, it will sit here at a solid B+. If the experience points can get updated so it feels good, and by the way, I'm not saying it has to be the best XP in the game, but like you don't even get a level, you know what I'm saying? Like, why am I out here buying an expansion that doesn't even level me up one time? So if they can up the XP, can make you feel commensurate to the amount of time you're putting in and what you're doing, then something like that will feel a lot nicer, and hopefully then we can bump up the rating. If the XP does get fixed and it feels good, I would definitely put this at an S tier expansion, but it is such a drawback from the experience, so I just can't. So we're hitting it in the solid B+. It feels good, it's fun to play when you get like on your first time playthrough, but on again, for myself, I'm just not gonna play through it. And I didn't even talk about the Dark Gift mechanic because I feel like it's just a really interesting design piece, but man, I'm like really torn about the experience points. That one just like brings it all down. But my opinion on Dark Gifts, that's actually also a big pro, so we're going to throw that up there. The Dark Gifts are a really good mechanic, and I really like the fact that any character can get access to them. The only downside is you have to play the Chill of Ravenloft, which means you have to not get XP, so what are you going to do? Anyways, that's my review of the Chill of Ravenloft. Let me know what you thought about the Chill of Ravenloft in the comments below. That's all I have, so thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy yourself, and I will catch you all in the future. Bye-bye.